In this video, we're going to be talking all about solving inequalities and graphing. Hopefully you've already watched the video on interval notation. If you didn't, it is a good idea to go back and refresh your memory on how to write answers in interval notation, because that's exactly what I'm going to be doing when I solve these problems. Basically, that means that what used to be an open circle now is going to be parentheses, and a closed circle is going to be brackets. This basically means that if you have a problem that is less than or greater than, you're going to use parentheses when you write your answer. And if it's less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, you're going to use brackets instead. As a reminder, infinity and negative infinity, never use a bracket because infinity is not a real number. It is just the idea of unboundedness. So let's go ahead and try some problems. In example number 1, we have x minus 12 is less than 4. In order for us to solve for x, we're going to add 12 to both sides. When you are adding or subtracting, the inequality does not get affected at all. So here x is less than 16. This means that I'm basically coming from negative infinity and I'm stopping at 16. It's going to be a parentheses because it is not or equal to. If you have a hard time with interval notation, one of the things that I recommend is that you actually put this on a number line, because in the number line, if I want all the numbers that are less than 16, I'm going to use the parentheses and shade everything to the left. So then that basically tells me that coming from left to right, I want everything that's coming from negative infinity until I get to positive 16. Can I write this answer as 16 to negative infinity? And the answer is no. And that is because we read left to right. And so we want to make sure that our answers are basically left to right. So it makes no sense to go from positive 16 to negative infinity. Instead, we're coming from negative infinity and we're stopping until we get to 16. Let's take a look at question number 2. In this case, we are going to add 2 to both sides. The inequality does not change its direction. So 12 is greater than or equal to x. I like to have the x on the left-hand side, so it makes it easier to graph and it makes it easier to determine the notation. So I'm going to flip this completely and write x is less than or equal to 12. Because if 12 is greater than or equal to x, then of course x is less than or equal to 12. On a number line, this means that I have all the numbers that are less than or equal to 12. So I'm going to use a bracket and I would shade everything to the left. So that means that I'm coming from negative infinity until I get to positive 12. And at positive 12, I have a bracket because it is or equal to. In number 3, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. I'm going to get x is greater than 3. On a number line, that means that I'm starting at 0. Here is 3. I want everything that is greater than 3, so I'm going to shade from 3 to the right. Because it is not or equal to, it's not a bracket, just parentheses. In terms of writing this in interval notation, I start at positive 3 and I'm headed towards positive infinity. Remember, infinity never takes on a bracket, only a parentheses, because it is not a real number. What happens when I multiply or divide? Well, if you multiply or divide by a negative number, that is the only time that you're going to switch the inequality. In number 4, I have to divide both sides by 4, but when I divide, I'm dividing by positive 4. So that means do not switch that inequality. I want all of the numbers that are greater than 2. So at 2, I have a parentheses and I shade to the right. That means that I'm starting at 2, headed towards positive infinity. In question number 5, I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Whenever you add or subtract, that never affects the inequality. So it stays the same. But now when I divide by negative 2, then now the sign does change. So in terms of graphing, I want all the numbers that are less than or equal to negative 3. Here's 0, here's negative 3. That means I'm going to use a bracket. And I'm headed towards negative infinity because I want all the numbers that are less than or equal to negative 3. So in terms of interval notation, I'm starting from negative infinity until I get to negative 3 and I use a bracket. In number 6, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 15 from both sides. When you add or subtract, you do not touch that inequality. But now that I am going to divide by a -1, then yes, I'm going to have to switch this around so I get x is greater than -5. On a number line, I'm going to have 0, -5. I want all the numbers that are greater than -5, so I go ahead and I shade to the right. In terms of interval notation, it's from -5 in parentheses because it is not or equal to, and I'm headed towards positive infinity. Hope you found this video helpful. Remember to subscribe to my channel for more help with math so that you can say, yes, I can do math with confidence. Until next time, thanks for watching.